Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube. Fan debates, live watch-alongs, post-match reactions, and all the Foxes banter you could ask for. Subscribe now and see the game through Blue Tinted Glasses.
Well then, Mahrez has made something of that. It's Mahrez! 2-0 to Leicester City! Next to him, Anthony Canoca finds Wood. Wood should score! Wood finds Canoca! Yes! Here comes Leicester again with Heskey and Ibbett! Oh, this is incredible! Got Jamie Vardy with him. Jamie Vardy sets off. Jamie Vardy!
Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube.
Good evening and welcome back to Blue Tinted Glasses for yet another live stream. And today it's an interesting one. It's one I'm looking forward to. It's all about Marty Cifuentes' exclusive interview on the BBC with BBC Radio Leicester. It was exclusive until we're going to show it. So hey BBC, don't sue me. You might take the video. You might get copyright, but we'll see. We'll see what it goes. Anil hasn't watched it yet. I've only seen little parts. So it's still worth it. Even if the video isn't here in 4 hours' time, it's still worth it. We're going to react to it live. So here he is as well. Anil, I'll start with you, mate. What's going on? How's things with you?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, I hate international breaks. Looking forward to, we've got quite a few games now between now and the end of the month. But I'm really interested to see this one because there's a lot of talk that Marty is, gets involved with the fans and the community a lot more than previous managers. So I'm really curious to hear what he's got to say. I think he seems like a good manager so far from what we've seen.
Yeah, I totally agree. Ethan, mate, welcome all the way from South Africa. What's going on with you, mate? How's everything?
Yeah, I've been good. University's back again, so I've been busy during this international break at least. Really good game with South Africa and Nigeria. Although the quality on display was kind of ass, but really excited to get back into the Blue Tinted Glasses community. Back to watching Leicester off dodgy streams. So yeah, we're back again, guys.
Don't say it's all legal. It's all legal, of course. It's all legal. Right, we're going to get straight into it. We're not going to show every single minute of the interview because we would be here for quite a long time. But we're going to just flick through certain bits and we'll be able to react to it in real time. So bear with us because the BBC Sounds website really isn't great. So apologies. But here we go. This is the thing. Now, before we go, I just want to test the volume, guys. Just let me know if you can hear this. I see, look, it's already playing up.
We will talk about the
can you hear
transfer
that?
window shortly.
Yeah, it's a little bit quiet, but you can hear it.
Yeah. Can you hear it okay, Ethan?
Yeah, I think he's just talking a bit deep. So I think it's fine, though.
Well, everyone pump up your volumes because I can't do anything about it, unfortunately. I can't do anything about it. So we're going to start playing it. And I think this question is just regarding challenges and things like that. So let's get straight into it.
Last few weeks, naturally. Has that been, I suppose, one of the headaches or one of the main headaches for that reason you just talked about there, that there will be and there will have been some players at the football club that wanted to play at the very top level and actually didn't want to feature for a side in the Championship? And I suppose as well the same goes for recruitment, trying to find those guys in the market that want the same thing as what the club can offer.
Yeah, but I said that before, that it will be probably the same situation that most of the teams have in the league, right? Until the window transfer is open, shutting down, then it's the same challenge for everyone, right? So there is some players that can come in, there is those rumors, there's speculation about players, and that's part of the game. So as a manager, what we need to do is to remain very calm about how to proceed, what is the plan. I told you sometimes in the press conference that we had a plan, and I think that at the end, when you look what we have done in terms of what we were saying from the very beginning about trying to trim the squad a bit, try to give some more room for the academy players, for the young players, the youngsters to show up, to just look for very specific profiles if we felt that those profiles were not easy to find inside the club. I think that we have done exactly what we had in mind.
And Pipes, that's such a real.
So let me
key thing
pause
that
it there.
obviously-
So I'll come to you first, Anil. So straight off the bat, because of course, like we all like he's very open, he's very honest. He says it how it is. Of course, there is still going to be that part of the politician answer, right, where he avoids saying certain things, and I'm sure there's a couple things in this there's a couple of things that have been maybe embargoed by the club, where the club have said you can't discuss that. I've seen a tweet, I don't know if it's true, but I don't think there's any points deductions chat. So maybe that's instructed by the club. However, on that question there, Anil, Marty does claim that they had a plan. They stuck to the plan. What do you make to that? Because, just looking at that, you would say maybe then the plan was just to get rid of as much deadwood as possible, get rid of as much high wages as possible, and bring in what you can, which is basically what they did.
I do actually think that is true, because I also think as well that like we basically realized that we weren't going to sign anyone properly, although we did sign a keeper on a free transfer. So I think the thing is, if you are going to go for loan signings or free transfers, actually there is a lot of merit for waiting right till the last second, because the thing is, it's only right at the very last second that you get certain deals that become available that maybe didn't come available earlier. I think very specifically with Aaron Ramsey, who I think is a really exciting signing. I think he's the one that will start at the weekend. I'm not so sure about JJ for this game, maybe the game afterwards. But I think a player like that, he literally played for Burnley in the cup. So you couldn't have done that deal at the start of the window, which would have been ideal. You had to wait right to the very end, where they've probably taken a gamble on it and said, look, we're still not 100% sure from this season. It'd be best for him to get his development. And all of a sudden that deal's on the table and you can get it. So I think that is partly true. Look, at the same time, I keep saying that we got to keep calling up club for it, man. Their communication is awful, right? They could have just said something like that at the start. The fact that they keep us silent is bad. This is obviously some sort of effort to try and make more communication, which is good. But I don't like the way that the club tries to use the manager as the sort of like tent pole for all communication. Like it should be the director of football coming in and also having a bit of a say. Like I don't know if you saw this recently, but Ipswich, both their director of football and Kieran McKenna both talked to them about the season and explained how things trend. So it's over. So
Blackburn
I'm
did it as well.
Bit.
Blackburn
But to answer your question, I do think there was a plan, and I do think we largely stuck to it, which is okay. It just would have been nice if they told us what the frigging plan was.
Yeah. Well, just to give you a spoiler, Anil, Matt Piper and Owen do towards the end put to him straight about the disconnect between the club and the fans, and the fact that there's a lot of unhappiness from the fans regarding the lack of communication and stuff like that. So we'll see that later. Well, what do you reckon, Ethan, mate, to what Marty said there about having a plan? Yeah,
I think it's pretty good. I think it's communication that we've really needed. Like Anil said, I feel like this would have been a lot more meaningful to the fans if it was perhaps Rudkin at the start of the window, saying, "Listen, there is a plan, right? We are talking inside the club about possible deals, possible outgoings, and we just need to stay calm and get through the window." I think what's good is what he's saying right now is actually happening, right? They've looked for specific profiles, right? They've looked for a Bilal replacement in Aaron Ramsey, someone creative. Look for a more box to box in JJ. They felt like they needed a new keeper, got a new keeper, and like you said about keeping positions open for the youth to come in, right? We've seen Ben Nelson, we've seen Aluko, Monga, Page, so there is opportunities coming through for the youngsters, which is also very important. I think he's quite very charismatic, right? He's very calm in his proceedings, and I feel like he's been calm. It's been a really stressful window, right? You have one of your star players in Bilal, right? And I feel like he's mentioning Bilal when he's saying, you want to keep players, but players want to leave. And as a manager, you need to stay calm, right? And he's done that. I feel like he's shown a lot of character to handle these sort of situations where players don't want to be here. And ultimately, I feel like everyone who doesn't want to be here really is gone. So I feel like he knows that he's done a good job this window.
And I'll tell you what's interesting as well. He did mention it very briefly in that answer, but he does say it later as well about changing the profile of certain positions. Because you've got like a Will, for example, who we know can do the bit of box to box, right? We've seen it before, but they clearly, and I know Wilf probably wanted to go as well. I'm not saying that he wanted to stay and we got rid, but there has been a change in profile there. You've got rid of Wilf and you've brought in Jordan James. That is a change in profile. But anyway, let's go on. I just want to see what the follow up to that answer was. I think Owen's going to say something here.
Obviously, Marty has already talked about in terms of what he wanted to do coming into the football club, utilising the academy and the glut of youngsters that Leicester City have at the club. But actually, as an academy product yourself, it must be so good, particularly a player in the Wingers Union as well, to see players like Jeremy Monga coming through the academy and actually see Marty giving them the opportunities that they have been given so far this season.
Yeah, I wanted to say on that, Marty, do you see that as brave from a manager that comes in and gives the opportunities to the youngsters? Clearly they deserve it, but there's been so many managers before that haven't.
Look, I cannot talk about what happened before. For me, every manager has his own ideas, perhaps because my background, my education, I've seen what Barcelona has done. I'm a big admirer as well of Ajax style, philosophy of football. And I see that there is always a lot of benefits of bringing players from the academy, because you know how it's in professional football. Sometimes there is a lot of cliches, but the reality is that young players, sometimes they're just brave, not afraid of showing up, of playing. They have this desire, their hunger, and I think that there's a lot of good things that they can bring. Plus the fact that they feel for the club, because they have probably gone through the whole journey. Some of them, I was very proud and very happy to see that we had, I think it was a lot of players against Charlton, not only on the lineup, but from the bench. And I think that creates a foundation. As I said, not only on the pitch, but in the changing room, in the way we feel about the club, in the way we want to be as a club. So I don't think it's braveness, because if they were not good enough,
you wouldn't play them.
I wouldn't play them.
Yeah.
There you go. So there's an interesting one there, Anil. I mean, pretty much saying what we thought, that Marty, he just from his background, from the places that he's been, from the job roles, of course, that he's had, because he's coached youth football as well in the past. It's quite clear that he does want to utilise the youth where possible. And as he just said at the end there, I play them because they're good enough, right? The reason he gives Monga and Page and whoever else an opportunity, it's because they're good enough. And I suppose that's backed up on the other side with Jake Evans, right? We saw him in pre-season. He didn't really impress, so he's not started in the first team this season. And so it all adds up there to what we thought about Marty.
Yeah, it's good. It's funny. The expression you paused on right now is pretty funny. It's a bit shell shocked. That's what
it looks like someone just said Bobby Reed's back.
Yeah, exactly. Indeed. Well, look, he's a good politician, right? Because he could have dug in there and he could have said, "Yeah, look, Van Nistelrooy was a coward. He should have played him. I'm not like that. I'm all about having guts." So he's doing it. I do wonder with Marty, as time goes by, as he gets more confident, if he'll be a bit more outlandish in his answers, because that, he's not coming like Mourinho, like stinking of arrogance right away. But I mean, Mourinho had earned it, in my opinion, winning a Champions League with Porto, right? So let's see what happens. Look, I think his actions are really good. I think right now, just a couple of minutes into this interview, he still comes across as a little bit too much of like King Power's man, if you know what I mean. Like, not really saying this sort of juicy gossip, but you got to start somewhere. And you're right, he's going to be fully embargoed and told that you can't rock the boat, and he doesn't want to do that right now. But yeah, look, we've seen already that he's good doing it. And, Pipes is kind of inferring, but I agree with him. I think it is brave to come in and just we literally started a 16 and a 17-year-old in a game. That is, for me, I don't think any other manager in the history of Leicester will ever do that again. That was ballsy, in my opinion, against Charlton when he did that.
Yeah. And he started Page in the 10 against Birmingham, which,
that's even more ballsy if you think about it. That's the biggest game we've had this season. Yeah.
And for what this league is, it will be one of the biggest games, right? When we play them again as well. And the safest option there, Ethan, could have been, as we've discussed loads of times, it could have been Ayew, right? Because obviously Bilal wasn't here. It could have been play Ayew in the 10 and Daka as a striker, or I don't know what other combination you could have done, but or you could have played a flat midfield three, whatever you want to say. But it is brave, as Anil said, Ethan, that he's come in and he's done it. But again, as he just said, it's because they're good enough.
Yeah, I also feel like if a academy player was on the pitch, right? If there was like a Jeremy Mungo or Page who maybe didn't put in the best performance, the fans wouldn't get on their back so much, right? Because at the end of the day, there are still 16 and 17-year-olds, right? I feel like it's brave, but he knows that there's not too much risks outside of maybe just the match, right? It's not going to ruin the player if they have one bad game because they're from the academy. They're given that time. They're given that sort of leeway to make mistakes. But for him, it is very ballsy because imagine now you lose that game against Birmingham, right? It's a really dull performance against Charlton. It's a loss against Huddersfield. It's a loss against Preston, right? It's not been the easiest start for Marty, right, on the pitch. Imagine now he went and lost that game, and maybe it was Page with an own goal, right? Now you'd look at Marty and say, why didn't you play a more experienced player? But
Yeah.
for him, he knows his squad, right? He obviously knows the players and he trusts them, right? And I think we've seen it, right? We've seen him look at the under-21s when they played against Juventus, right? So he knows that you need to keep monitoring the players and seeing how they're doing. But if they're not good enough, they don't necessarily deserve to start, right? You still need to get performances. And I feel like he's doing a good job of managing that and managing the players on the side.
Yeah, mate. Totally agree with you. Let me just find this. Yeah, the link was on Owen's account. Yeah, absolutely. Ray says Marty has to realise that he is the only mouth. This is what you brought up earlier, Neil. He has to realise he is the only mouthpiece of the club to us. So what he says carries a lot of weight. No one else at the club says a word. But this is why, like, when we've had disagreements and debates with Kate before, if you remember, Neil, because we would say something against the board using Rude's words. And Kate would say, well, Rude could be learned. And I kind of, mine and your response was always, but he's the only one who talks, right? He's the only thing, whatever we get comes from the manager. And that's still the case now, right? So whatever Marty says here, you never know. It could be bullshit, but we just don't know, right? We just don't know. Let's play on here. I think there's a bit more here about something different.
Fantastic level of performance, but the way, for instance, that we like to play high on the pitch, we love.
Let me just skip
Press
forward.
conference.
Here we
Thank
go.
you, Marty. Go on, Pipes.
I was just going to say, so that's for me, Marty, the start of the season. Most of the games, the Birmingham performance, I thought was great. I mean, you must have enjoyed a lot of things in that Birmingham performance.
Something.
Well, this is what I was actually going to say, because Marty talked about this in his pre-match press conference, and it was, I think for a few people in the room, a bit of a surprise where Marty said, it was a win, and that's great, 3 points on the board, but actually there were elements of the performance that you weren't particularly happy with.
Yeah, and we had a very good conversation with the players straight after the game and during the days afterwards. I think that we want to dominate the games in a different way. The fact that we only concede one shoot on goal and it was coming from a deflection in a set piece, if you remember, in a free kick, deflection on the wall, and then in a dangerous situation, says a lot about the structure, about how well everybody worked together to make sure that a good team, because Birmingham has started well, comes with a great dynamic, and especially in the start of the season, I think that that's a big part of a lot of things that are happening in the first game weeks, where the teams that are recently promoted, it's kind of easier for them. I'm saying that it is easy, but a little bit easier for them they have full confidence. They come from a fantastic season. That's why they got promoted. While the teams that are just relegated, look at Ipswich, look at Southampton, despite having fantastic squads, really good managers, it's not easy. That's why I give a lot of value to the fact that we got already 9 points from the first 12, despite some of parts of our performance against Birmingham. I think that we need definitely to get better.
I mean, I love this, Anil, because if I think back to the opening few games, I think that the performances. I don't look back on them games and think, yeah, we played really well. And I think both of you will agree with me there. And it's nice to see a manager who's addressing that and saying, look, yeah, we got the 3 points, but like, I really wasn't. I mean, even when Owen was saying it, he said there were a few. There was one or two things that Marty wasn't happy with, and Marty went a few. So he's addressing there and what the fans are seeing basically, that so far even though we've got 9 points, the performances really haven't been good enough for Nil. They need to be a lot better if we want him to go up, and it's good to see that he's obviously addressing that.
Yeah, big time. I mean, that's super important. You don't want to believe your own hype. We haven't had a single good performance all season yet. That's just a fact. I still think he's done a great job on the other side. Like, man management is a huge part of it. It's not just about like the tactics and getting it right and all that. Like, if you can't motivate your team and you got players that wanted to leave, he's frozen out the right people, etc., etc. He's done well, but we have to expect that. I mean, for me, I've said I think our season starts on Saturday against Oxford, and I think you got to give them 10 games from that point on, right, even to judge it, right? Because there's people coming into the team that haven't even played before. But it's good that he recognizes that, and hopefully he can get the message across. But I think Pipes is probably going to allude to it, which is that I think a lot of us were pretty impressed pre-season, seeing what the team could be capable of. And I think if we can get back that way, it does bode well. I am still a bit intrigued exactly how he's going to use Vestergaard, because that for me is still like the elephant in the room, the way that he wants to play and that player don't seem like they're compatible. But yeah, I'm quite encouraged, and it's good to see that he's thinking that way.
What do you think, Ethan? Because I would agree with the Nil that we've got 3 players who've just come in. I think personally, I think Carranza could start. But I don't think it would surprise any of us if none of the 3 start the next game, just because they won the last one. But eventually, you'd expect them 3 players, or at least 2 of them, to integrate as first team players. Starting 11 players. So Anil's right. Do you think, Ethan, that we can't really judge, Marty and this squad or this team just yet until everybody's settled in and they really get going?
Yeah, I think with the new additions, right? I think you're gonna see 3 or 4 different sort of lineups in the next coming matches. So I feel like he needs to really get to know the players, and the players need to get to know each other and get to understand each other's games. It'll be interesting to see who does start. I think most likely it will be Ayu in the 10 and Carranza up top, or maybe Ayu up top and Aaron Ramsey in the 10.
That's
but yeah,
what it's going to
I
be,
think,
in my opinion.
but I think it's difficult, right? Like you said, for the relegated teams, right? You're gonna see a lot of player turnover. You're gonna see many players leaving, right? The players that are too good for the championship, they're gonna leave, and you're left with sort of the demotivated players, and it's difficult to get them back up to speed, back up to playing with their full confidence. And I think the performances that we've had, we've seen that the players are still, trying to get that confidence up. I think we've won games based off individual performances, right? If you think back to the opening day, they had 10 men, Sheffield, but it was a Bilal free kick and a Fatawu corner to win us the game, to get us the goals. And then it was Jeremy Munga individual performances. So it wasn't like a complete team performance. I think from a defensive standpoint, the character that the players showed against Birmingham was very important. And if we have that for the rest of the season, I think we're going to do very well. And that's really a big role that Marty's come in and done.
Yeah. Right, let me find the next little bit for us
Definitely
to go through here.
From the charity, give us this style,
Create that feeling.
Here we go.
can help us to get where we want to be. The sooner the better.
If you are able to do that and create that identity, create that feeling at this football club, and get this football club back into the Premier League this season, how much would that mean to you when you look at I suppose, your own career and the feeling of success in able to build something tangible like that you can look at and go, we have created that identity, we have created that feeling, and because of that, this club is back in the Premier League?
It's not about me. Let me tell you this. It's not about me. It's about the club. It's about the players. I don't want headlines. I'm happy when the headlines are always for my players, because I work for them, and the game belongs to the players. No one pay a ticket to see the manager. People pay tickets to watch the players, the quality, the technical players, the players that create something, some emotions in the fans. So it's about them. I'm a big believer in the process and the journey, and I'm enjoying a lot. So of course I would love to one day coach in the Premier League, but I'm not obsessed about it. What I want is to make sure that we create something for this club, and the day I leave, whatever it's in 2 years, in 10 years, whatever it is, that we feel that it was a journey that it was worth, And actually, when you look at the history of many clubs, but as well as this one, I know that Nigel Pearson came here in a difficult situation. It took some time, right? But definitely the club grow a lot, and that's the way it is. Sometimes we want, especially nowadays, instant success about we want to achieve this already yesterday, but we need to understand that there is a process into achieving things. And as long as the fans are on board on this and they understand where we are, that it might take some time until we see Jeremy Monga playing his best football because he's only turned 16 1 month ago. If we understand this, then I think that can be a fantastic journey together.
So Marty Cifuentes dropping Sir Nigel Pearson's name in there, talking about when Pearson first joined the club was in a difficult situation and it took some time, although it was slightly different. They did get instant success. They were promoted to the Premier League, to the Championship, but you know what he meant. And over time, over two spells, obviously Nigel Pearson built the club really to what it was up until maybe you could probably say until a couple of years ago. So. And Neil, I mean, this is what we keep saying, like it's so cliche, but he just gets it. Like he understands the club, he understands the fans. He's dropping the names of fan favourites. He's doing all of this, and as you heard, you said it earlier about he's not really coming in big cock fucking Marty talking about himself and stuff. He's saying it's not about him, it's about the players, but. He's right, isn't it? He is right. That he said he works for the players, which is an interesting way of looking at it, right? Because it's kind of his job to get the best out of the players. So, yeah, what do you make to everything he just said there?
Well, I brought up this comment from Dawn. Lovely guy, Marty. Absolutely. Look, I think something like that is always interesting because it's like, does he genuinely mean that, or has he been tipped off on that? Has he been helped with this? Because this has obviously been pre-orchestrated, right, with the questions and stuff like that. So that will remain to be seen. But I will say, I think the thing with Marty and what makes me excited for him is that personally, I want to see us have a manager a bit like how Thomas Frank was at Brentford. And he was there for a very long time. He might even have been there for like 6, 7, 8 years. And he developed that club, took them from the Championship to the Premier League, stabilized them, and just built upon those foundations year upon year. We really need somebody like that. You are right, though. If I compare him to Enzo was definitely going to the top, but I think Enzo knew it. And we liked it. He had that cocky confidence, right? Like telling Leeds about, it's a big game for them, not for us, etc., etc. But you do get the feeling of him is like, I'm the boss. You do as I say. And if I say they're not going to play, they're not going to play kind of thing. Marty seems a bit more reasonable like that. But he does seem good. So I do actually think that because I was thinking about this in the summer, and I was sort of thinking that like, ideally, what you want, as crazy as this sounds, you want a manager who's good, but not so good that he's going to leave really quickly because he's like destined for the top. And so I actually think someone like Marty, it ticks a lot of the boxes. Like he's clearly got a good man management sense. He's good with the young players. I think he also knows how to build a club, or he has an idea, or that excites him about doing that. And so that is good. But he is saying all the right things there. And I will say that you got to judge a guy on his actions, but his actions so far have been impressive, right? He has the players that don't want to be there, they're not playing in the team, even though the correct thing to do would have been to play Winks and Faze because they're the better players than the ones that have come in, right? He's entrusted these young players, and the ones that have been good enough have kept their place. Like we actually showed how Louis Page had a bit of an indifferent game the first appearance that he made, but he kept him, he retained him for Birmingham, as you said, and he was rewarded by getting that assist with a towel. That's amazing. That is really showing you what it is that he Bilal wasn't playing ball. He never threw him under the bus. I think a lot of other managers would have. I think if I was a manager, I would have said this guy's a rat making the squeaky noises and he refuses to play. But he didn't, maybe keeping the door open in case he does get promoted and he wants to bring him back later on in the future. So very, very good, I think. And, plus bringing up a comment here, the white trainers and sweat jacket blazer on the touchline. I like it. I'm digging that. Ethan, you're a man of style. What do you make of that? And you can carry on with the question.
To be honest, he looks like my dad. So, I'm telling my dad to base his style off of him. But yeah, no, I think he's saying the right things, right? I think you look at him, he obviously he's followed the club for quite a lot of time, right? I think I look back, he has a tweet about Leicester when we won the league. So I feel like he's really accustomed himself with the club, right? And I feel like he's become a fan's favorite, right? In his short time here. I think he's someone who understands that for so long there's been a disconnect between the club, the players, the manager, and the fans, right? So he's trying to rebuild that bond. I would like him to stick around for 10 years, if things, are going as good as they are right now. But it's really encouraging from him to say, you want to see the best football of Jeremy Munga, but it's not going to happen now, guys. We're excited about Munga now, but trust me, if he keeps developing, be here with us for the next 3 years, and you'll see how amazing things can get. And I feel like you need a manager to sort of be encouraging, excited, but not like Enzo, where he was a bit arrogant and a bit, too much about himself. I think he's really a humble guy, and he's showing that he doesn't want it to be about him. He wants it to be about the club, and I think it's really encouraging, right? Because at the end of the day, managers come and go, for whatever reasons, but the club remains, and it's encouraging to see that he wants to build something that's long lasting at the club.
Yeah, I was going to say as well. I mean, I messaged Kate earlier, and I said that he has the potential to become one of the fan favorites, of all time. And talking of Kate, you're about to see Kate. So here we go. I'm going to play it from here.
This one from Kate.
Hi, it's Kate here. My question for Marty is, which particular player has impressed you the most since joining in terms of their physical ability? And which player has impressed you the most since joining in terms of their mentality and attitude?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. You know that nowadays with all the GPS, all the data we go through every morning, we know how many steps, how many sprints, how many everything they did in the games, in the trainings. Louis Page, another young player, outstanding in terms of physical qualities, how much ground he covers in the trainings, in the games, axles, diesels, everything. Silko Thomas, another one, running a lot, goes in behind, creates a space for other ones, doing really well. There are other ones that are very experienced as well, but they are doing. Skip is another player that creates a lot of high total distance and things like this. So physically good players. And the other one, I'm very impressed, for instance, perhaps because he didn't join in the camp in Austria and I didn't have the time to know him that well. It's Bobby Cordova-Reid. Fantastic knowledge of the game, really good with the group. I'm impressed. Tactically very smart. He can play in many different positions. He understands very quick whatever we ask him to do. And you don't play at the level he played in Premier League with Fulham many years if he was not a very smart player. Ricardo Pereira is another one. Fantastic understanding of the game. Harry Winks, Yannick Vestergaard, they love to talk football. So tactically as well, very smart players. We got a good group.
I'm laughing because I said to Kate earlier, I knew she was asking those questions, and I said to Kate earlier before I'd watched her question, I said to her that, apparently Marty's praised Bobby Reid, and Kate was like, oh dear. So I've just messaged her and said it was your question that led to the Bobby Reid glazing, Kate. We blame Kate for that, but no, I mean that's interesting, isn't it? He, specifically when asked about the physicality, the physical ability, maybe the fitness levels, he kind of interpreted that as he's obviously spoke about Page, Silko Thomas, a lot of skip, a lot of running, covering a lot of ground. And then obviously on the mental side, he's saying that he's very impressed with Bobby Reid, who's obviously been injured. He's just come back, and clearly I think saying what we already knew about Bobby Reid in terms of mentally and reading the game, he probably is very good at that. It's just, is he at that level now at his age? We just don't know. But what do you make to how Marty's responded to Kate's questions there?
Well, it's good man management. I don't think it's a coincidence that all of the players he's mentioned are like fringe players. So he's deliberately trying to keep those fringe players on side because they're the ones that that's the biggest thing when you're in a team, right? If you're not playing, then you don't know what the manager thinks of you, right? And you can't be bothered. Your attitude starts going to pot, etc., etc. Like it's a 46 game season, right? You are going to need at some point those players. You're going to have injuries as well. You're going to need someone to step up at some point and start scoring those goals when other people are out, right? So that's really good man management for him. So I think he's saying the right things and that's what he's doing. The players will have been listening to this stuff as well. And that is saying, look, you haven't been involved yet, but you will be. I think Louis Page, yeah, that's true. But also, let's call it out. Louis Page is going to get dropped pretty quickly, in my opinion, right? He is going to be playing a part, but we've clearly signed players who are more ready right now to take his role. But that's not a bad thing. That doesn't mean he's not going to get game time. Doesn't mean he's not going to start even. He'll probably have games where he does start. But that would actually be the smartest thing from a man management point of view, saying, oh, look, Aaron Ramsey's playing the same position as you are. You can see he's a few years older and he's played in the Premier League. So what I want you to do when we're watching the game is I want you to watch his movement, what passes that he selects and why he's doing that, and learn from it. And you're going to be working, you know, etc., etc. Or maybe it'd be JJ, fair enough. But that's what I expect to see. So yeah, I think it's good man management from that point of view. That's what he's doing. And yeah, smart. Because like I say, if you don't do that and you have players that are getting a hump, you're going to make a bad dressing room. And I think already, I think the thing that you'd say the performances might not have been so good, but the thing that has impressed everyone is that there's a better attitude. Like I know you keep seeing, but I keep seeing pictures of Samare smiling. I've never seen it before, right? So, well, you joke blocks, right? But some people, they have that ability, right? That they can just like, they're charismatic, right? They have, I'll be honest with you, Locks, you have it. I can see when we do the watch alongs and you're not doing it, there's people in chat that literally come up and they say, where's Locks today? They're completely downtrodden. They're going to have to listen to a nil for 3 hours. But if you're there, they're just like, yes, even if we lose 5-0, I'm going to get Locks raging, ranting. It's going to be amazing. So
I've got some bad news for those guys from the 30th of September.
Exactly. But yeah, I think that's great. And if he can, yeah, like I say, I'm impressed. Clearly, from a man management point of view, he's got it.
Ethan, what are your thoughts then, mate? Because it's interesting to hear him praising Bobby Reid. Yes, it could be what Anil's, said about, maybe he's kind of propping up the fringe players here, but also it could suggest that Bobby Reid does have quite a bit of part to play. He's been injured, right? So he's not really had the opportunity to play him at all. And also, just on what Anil said about Samare as well, that's what the best manager would do, Anil. The best managers would come into a club. They would see somebody who is probably one of the most gifted players, I would call Samari, because we know there's a player there who's struggled maybe with mentally or whatever it is, application, and you would put your arm around him and try and sort him the hell out. And not just from
Ousmane Dembele, PSG, he's probably going to win the Ballon d'Or. People said he was washed for years. And then you see him in that Champions League final. Doesn't even score, but he's still one of the best players on the pitch. So that's what a top manager will do.
Exactly. And Vardy, like he came in and, I know it was a slightly different situation, but Nigel Pearson and Shaky had to work with him hard to get him going and get him, properly focused and all of that. But go on, Ethan, mate, take it away with the responses there to Kate's questions.
I think it's pretty smart, right? You're talking about the players that are a bit more experienced when talking about their mentality, about their tactical knowledge, right? Winks, Vestergaard, Bobby Reid, they're all more of the older group, and the more physical players are the younger ones, right? Who still probably need to develop their game, develop their tactical knowledge of the game. So that's interesting. I think Reid will have a part to play. I don't think he's a winger anymore. I think we'll probably see him in a number 10 or as a makeshift striker. But I think with the players that we have, everyone has a part to play. I don't think there's room for passengers this season from Leicester, right? We need everyone to be up for every single game, 100%, right? No matter if it's Ipswich at home or, Plymouth away. We need everyone to be together. We need everyone to show character, and we need everyone on board, especially with right? We don't want players throwing him under the bus and vice versa. So I think he's done really well in creating that good vibes. But we've seen him in training, right? He has a time and a place to be serious, to be a more focused individual. But we've seen him as well when he greets people. He's a very friendly guy as well. So it's very good from him to have both of those qualities.
Yeah, I think there's a question coming up here from Pipe, so let's see what he has to say here.
How does it work in terms of?
Oh, this is a good one, by the way. This is a good one. So yeah, this is a good question that comes up. I'll let you decide on how you think Marty answers it. I was leaning more towards a bit of a politician answer, but I'll play it here. So prepare yourself for this one.
That's a tricky one.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one.
I don't want to answer it. Okay, we'll move
on. How does it work in terms of bringing players in? Do you have targets that you want, or how does it work in the ecosystem that's at Leicester? Because I think, one thing over the years that maybe we've not heard from the club at all, the fans don't know how it works. And it's not, maybe not in my mind, it's not to point fingers if a signing doesn't work, but it would be really helpful, I think, as a fan to sort of understand how a signing comes into the club.
I think that every club works in different ways. My experience as well, that perhaps the way it's done in Spain is different than what I found in Scandinavia. I think that nowadays as well, it has changed a little bit, this view about the manager being in total control of everything. So the clubs nowadays, they have owners that they invest a lot of money. So every club works in a pretty different way. But what I will say is that the process here has been very open. So it has been very clear from the beginning that we had to rebuild a bit, that we had to perhaps sell some players, that we wanted to change some players' profiles. And of course, I bring some names into the table. Then we check if it's a possibility, a reality or not, in terms of the financials, in terms of, sometimes players, they get interest from other clubs as well. But what I'm happy is that this process has been natural. And at the end, we identified players that could fit what we wanted. What was important for me as well, again, it was to make sure that on this rebuild, we were finding the right personalities. Players that were really eager to play for a club like this, and players that wanted to accept the challenge of taking the pressure to play for Leicester in the Championship.
Brilliant.
Happy days.
Yeah.
Let's hear.
There you go. So he was asked about how transfers work at the club. He didn't give a proper, clear answer. He did say, though, that he had some names in his mind that he put forward, and that it wasn't all about that. It wasn't all about who he wanted, which I think we knew that was the case. Maybe that sometimes the manager got their player that they wanted, Oliver Skipp and Steve Cooper, but then sometimes there's more of a club-led approach with recruitment, Bilal El Khanous, So what do you make to that, Anil? Again, a bit of a politician's answer, but I think he's given us just a little bit of insight there.
Yeah, it's a good answer. I think you're right. I mean, what I'd really like of him to say is, look, the way that it works, we've got a kind of panel selection process of which I'm part of, or maybe I can veto the final decisions. We have to have an agreement, but we don't necessarily sign players that I just recommend. It has to go through a full appraisal. So if I'm the only one on the panel that wants the player and everyone else says no, I equally don't get my choice. I'd love it if he had said something like that, which is how I think it probably does work, right? He probably says more like, okay, sits down with Martin Glover, John Rudkin, says, okay, for this kind of system, this is the type of player we need. We need these kind of attributes. And here are some players I'm thinking of. So either get those players, or can you find players that have got those attributes and presents me some targets? That I think would be like the 10 out of 10 answer that he could give. But I think he's given a pretty good answer that it probably is something like that anyway. So it's half decent. And to be honest with you, he shouldn't really have to answer that question. The director of football should. But respect Pipes, he's been having some fire questions on this. So whatever you've been talking to him about, Locks, it's worked.
Well, Ethan, before I come to you, I'm going to play this bit because, again, it's another question from a fan, and the response to it is pretty interesting as well. So I'm just going to play that, and then I'll come to you, Ethan. Here it is.
Of characters you want to bring to the club.
Hi, Marty. It's Ian Wright here, contributor to BBC Radio Leicester and to the Fossway website. I want to ask a question about recruitment, if I may. Over my time as a fan, the most successful Leicester City managers have not only been able to bring in quality players, but they've also been able to bring in really good characters. So what I wanted to know is, what do you look for when you bring in a player into the club?
Yeah, I think recruitment, it's an art. It's not easy. Otherwise, especially nowadays with all this thing about data that is developing at crazy pace, and now with all the artificial intelligence and everything is developing even faster, it's not that easy. Because otherwise, it's just about, okay, we want, I don't know, a right winger that can dribble a lot. And then you just check percentage, success, dribble. Then everybody, my mom could do it, right? The one at the top is the best one. It's not that easy. I think that it's about, first of all, is a team sport. So it's about those qualities, having a relation between them, how this player can fit with the other ones. Because If you are a winger, it's not the same to play, for instance, with Ricardo Pereira as a fullback than to play on the other side with Victor Christensen, because they have different qualities. So how we can make this fit? But then definitely there is another part behind that that is about the personality. Okay, we found a player, or we see a winger that we like. But then I think it's very important to understand, okay, how is he? How is he in the training? How is he in the changing room? How is he when we're 1-0 down and it's 20 minutes left? Does he want to ask for the ball and take responsibility, or under pressure, FA Cup final in Wembley, he's hiding a bit? All those things, I think that are very important. And at the end, it's not nothing better than the other one. It's just about being clear on what do we want and try to find the best profile.
I think that's a brilliant answer from Marty Cifuentes there. I disagree with this, Nigel. I don't think he's really sitting on the fence with that answer. I'll come to you, Ethan. I mean, he's saying, something that we kind of, know with regards to the data. The example he used it sounds very much like Samare, right? You can go through all the data you want. And Neil, I know you've told me before about Samare, in terms of central midfielders at the time, had some of the best data in the world, and we signed him and it wasn't quite right, Ethan. And he mentioned there, that just signing a winger with a high success rate, with dribbles and stuff like that, doesn't necessarily suit. If you're looking at a right winger or a left winger, one side's got Ricardo behind you, one's got Victor getting a name drop, so he'll love that. Doc will love that. But it's more about the character. He mentioned, Ethan, about, what is he like when you're 1-0 down with 20 minutes to go? Does he want to receive the ball and take players on? And I think you look at somebody like Steffi Mavididi in that situation, you can maybe have your doubts there. With 1-0 down, 20 minutes to go, his head drops a little bit. So, yeah, talk to me what you think about that, mate, because I think character, again, there's a big thing with Marty, big thing about character, personality, the feeling around the squad. I think he's really, really focused on all of that.
Yeah, I think he mentioned it twice, right? Signing players for their personality as well, not only just their technical or statistical background. I think it's very important, right? I think you want a team, especially in tough times, to be able to stick together. So I think that's been a big priority. I think he's also come in, and that's he's helped that process. But yeah, I think the previous question, I think he was kind of giving a politician's answer, right? He wasn't giving the full process. But it's interesting, right? He comes forward with his own names. The club might suggest other ones, and then you have to come to an agreement. It is quite interesting. I think clearly the goalkeeping signings were probably his. Begovic he's worked with at QPR, and it's got Spanish connections with the new one that's come in now. It'll be interesting to see the other signings, right? The ones that maybe were a bit 50-50. I don't think Aaron Ramsey was per chance Marty signing, but he's someone that would suit Marty. So it is interesting. At least he's giving some. But yeah, it's really important. I think when we're all playing Football Manager at the end of the year, right, we're going to see maybe, the dressing room atmosphere really affects our results. So, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with you, mate. Right, let's move on to this next one. I'm not sure what this bit is, but it's from Owen.
You're listening, of course, to a very special episode of the When You're Smiling podcast. We are live on BBC Leicester and also the BBC Sport website and app. This episode will be available if you have missed any of it shortly at this football club, where, particularly in a percentage of the fan base, there have been tensions pretty high alongside the club, its fan base, its players, its hierarchy as well. There's been demonstrations, there's been protests, chants aimed, at members of the board, and probably more than anything, there is has been a negative feeling around the club at this time. And this was a club that once had, such a real special relationship with its supporters, and actually the global game more widely as well. Before you arrived, were you aware of this feeling and how it has changed over time?
It's always difficult to judge from the outside. Obviously, you hear things. But I think that, look, every fan base is a bit special, a bit different. I can understand the frustration because it's never easy to swallow, especially for a club like this, to get to relegations in 3 seasons. It's difficult. That's the reality. Despite it was one very successful season in between, probably the fact that just 10 years ago this club made one of the most amazing stories in sport, I would say, not even in football, over the last, I don't know, 50 years. An incredible achievement, sets the standards even higher. I'm not saying that it's unfair, but I will say as well that we need to make sure that we change this dynamic. How? Again, for me, is the identity. That they feel proud of the identity. That they feel proud that despite we can lose one football game, they understand that those players really represent what they want. And this is not easy. You don't achieve this in one day, in 1 week, so it's going to be a process. But so far, in these 2 months, I just have good positive things to say about the fans. They were fantastic in the first game at home. They were fantastic in the game away against Charlton. Without them, I can tell you, we are not getting those 3 points. We are not. And I feel, yeah, something that came from the players. I'm going to give you a detail. Before the last game at home, Hamza, as a captain, took the team to make the circle just before the kickoff in front of the stands. That was amazing. That shows that the players want. Then it's not easy. And as a former player, when things are not going well, it's very easy to get a bit of abuse, and then the players feel a little bit like having thrown under the bus. It's not easy to be on the situation as well. They have a lot of privileges. Don't misunderstand me, but to play in front of 30,000, feeling that every time you make a bad touch or whatever, you're gonna get the crowd against you. That's not easy. So we need to make sure that we change this, and we are the ones that we need to change this. It's not the fans. It's us encouraging the fans to be on our side.
I'm going to give that a bit of an applause because I thought that was an absolutely brilliant answer, Ethan. This is a debate that goes on all the time. And again, she won't mind me saying, me and Kate always disagree on this because Kate's very much, completely disagrees with all the abuse and all of the booing and all of that stuff, which I understand is not good and it's toxic. Of course it is. But Marty's saying there, Ethan, that it's the players that can change, that have to change the atmosphere. It's not the fans, it's the players. And again, I've always found it a bit of a chicken and the egg kind of debate, this, because it's like, well, the fans are booing because of what's happened previously, but then other people say, but the players the players have poor attitudes because of what the fans have done. And it's kind of like, who did it first? And Marty here, Ethan, is saying that no, it's on us as a team, it's on us as the players to make the fans proud, to make the players backers and excite them and make them proud. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think he mentioned two things that I really think is the right thing, right? Identity. You want a team that makes you proud to support them, right? And standards, right? He mentioned us winning the league, and that's obviously set standards. Even the FA Cup win, it's standards, right? You want to be getting into Europe or challenging for the top four. Those are standards that were set for Leicester, right? And I think ever since we won, say, the Community Shield, right? I think those standards have kind of been lost, and then you sort of get this feeling of, oh, there's no sort of ambition in the club. There's no sort of identity. The club doesn't know what they want. Do they want to just survive? Are they budgeting for top 8? But I think it's really good. He's mentioned that it's up to them to rebuild that, and I would say it is their responsibility. Every season is new personnel, so it is up to them to really take on this challenge. And it's important to, I think he's also mentioned the personalities of the players, right? You want the players to be up for the challenge. So, what he's saying makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, Anil, like, of course, it's a, what do you make to it all? Because, of course, like when we lose a game, against, was it Preston? When you lose a game against Preston, you're like, oh, that was dog shit. Look how we've fallen and all of that. But if the players are there with the right mentality, the determination, the work effort, the effort levels and the work ethic and all of that stuff, the fans can be proud of that. If you can see the team fighting till the very last minute, trying to get a goal back, trying to win the game, that's different to what we saw, for example, last season under Ruud van Nistelrooy, where one goes in, the players give up, and suddenly it's 4-0. And we can respect the manager and the players if the fight is there. Even if you lose, even if on the odd day, on the odd game, you haven't got enough to get past the opposition or they've done a job on you, you just want to see fight.
100%. So that's good. He's done that. I mean, again, I think it's good man management that he's saying that the players are doing it. He's not trying to say it's me that's improving it. It's the players that are doing it. I'm helping them get to that point of view. So that is good, right? He's trying to get there. Rome wasn't built in a day, so let's see what he can do. But yeah, like I say, it's encouraging that he is trying to do that and realizes that the mentality around the club is like as important as like the players you've got in it and the way that you play. That, you know, he said, so there's a couple of times already that he said we wouldn't have got any points if it wasn't for the away fans at Charlton. He said that like it was Hamza as the captain. Notice that he called him out there. We don't even know, a lot of people wouldn't have Hamza in their first team or even their squad. How many times have we seen in our show saying get rid of Hamza? But he called him out there specifically, said that he's there. He was the one that instigated it, giving them pride. And also, you know, it's funny because there's different schools of management, but I mean, I like that because by the manager saying that, you're also hinting at the rest of your squad. Well, you know what? Maybe if you did that kind of stuff as well, I will also mention your name and it will also help you. And it creates like a positive feedback loop, right? So, yeah, I will say that so far, it's kind of funny. Look, so I think I shared a story with you how there was one player at Hammarby that really got the tiff with Marty. And he said he's like one of the worst managers that he's ever had. Right. But everything that we've seen so far, I would actually say that this is the best man manager I think we've had for a very long time. Pearson was obviously the ultimate, I think, in terms of doing that. He could get the best out of difficult characters like your Vardys and Drinkwaters. Brendan Rodgers was an interesting one because he seemed initially like he could get the best out of them. But I feel like if he had a falling out of a player, he wasn't good at picking them up. But I will say that Brendan Rodgers really took James Maddison's game to a whole other level. So I think he was quite good at it. But I think even Enzo, Van Nistelrooy and Cooper definitely sucked at it. So it's good to have someone like this. And I think it really makes a big difference. Like that side, you know, even though I do the tactics show, right, the one thing that I don't really talk about is that the man management side of the game is Fergie proved it. If anything, that's 90% of it, right? You can be tactically set up as well as you want, but if your players aren't feeling right and they're not buying into what you're saying, it ain't happening. Whereas equally, you could have the most Barry basic default tactic that you've picked out of FM for the first game of the season, but if every single player's morale is superb and the dressing room atmosphere is incredible, you're just going to batter anyone. So I think on that side of it, he's very good.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Right. Let's see what he has to say here.
On a Monday night, 7:00 in Wigston, Holiday Inn. That's the place to go. It's a Foxton Locks. And
hold on.
As Rob, that's this weekend. If you just around the corner from here. Also,
did he just say Locks?
Okay. No, not Locks. He said Locks, but he meant the canal. Locks.
Okay. I was gonna say you sly dog. You got in there. Okay.
I'm gonna play this. I think this is a bit of light-hearted end to the interview. So I'm gonna play this here.
And hearing those stags roar,
definitely
sounds good. Joe says you could go and see the Perringine Falcons at the Cathedral, just around the corner from here. Also, the newly refurbished Jury Wall Museum, that's just across the road as well. Mm-hmm. The Scarecrow Festival in Lubbenham, says Rob. That's this weekend. If you've got anything to do after the game against Oxford on Saturday, Marty. Okay. Rochelle says definitely a visit to Foxton Locks, and Sean says the Andy's Man's Club on a Monday night, 7:00 in Wigston, Holiday Inn. That's the place to go for mental health, men's mental health, and making sure that everything is there. And a personal one for me, I reckon the Griffin Inn in Swithland. That's a great pub. I think. Okay. Any suggestions there that stand out for you?
I mean, all of them. Hopefully, I will have a little more time than what I had the last couple of months, where I've been almost 24/7 in the training ground. But looking forward to know more about the area, and yeah, I love all these recommendations.
We have also had a voice note come in to us, Marty, from Amanda.
This is really funny, by the way. This is a Leicester fan, Amanda. Obviously, giving Marty some advice on what he should do in the area. So listen to this. This is funny.
At the African Caribbean Centre in Leicester, and she's got a proposition for you as well.
Okay. Marty, I don't know where you've been. I don't know what place you've eaten at, but please stop. Find your way to the African Caribbean Centre like ASAP, where there's hot pot. Winston and the team will make you an amazing Caribbean dish, because they do every day, all day, and you can eat food that will mean that you won't even miss home. So wait no more, delay no further, and get yourself to the African Caribbean Centre so you can tantalize your taste buds and feel like you're not eating bland food. I didn't say it, but hey, you know where to be.
Amanda's not holding back, Marty. That sounds like an interesting proposition.
Definitely.
Yeah, there we go. So that was interesting from Amanda there. I'm just seeing if there is any other little last bit here, just the outro. See if he does say anything extra here to end the stream or to end the video.
It will take time.
Here we go.
Wrapping up the show very shortly indeed. But in terms of, I suppose, your message to fans, really, of course, there's a game on Saturday against Oxford United, but also further into the season, what would that message to supporters be?
Look, first of all, I heard that it's like 1,700 already confirmed to go to Oxford, something like this, which shows what amazing support we have in early kickoff, away, and so on. But for me, the main message is I've been trying to be quite consistent from day one. I hope that they enjoy what the guys, what we as a team were trying to do, that they get on board and they understand that perhaps this will take time, that it will not be easy to get back to where we want to be, but that we do it together, we're going to be very strong. So I know that the fan base has been fantastic with me. What I've seen so far, they have been fantastic as well with the team. Let's get through this together. It's going to be up and downs. It's going to be probably a hell of a journey, but hopefully we can look back and say that was worth.
Marty, it's been a pleasure having you in the studio.
There we go. So that is the end of the interview. So let's just go around and Neil, ending it there with a little message to the fans as well. What did you make to that, mate? I understand that some people probably wanted more, but I thought for a Leicester City interview from a manager, it's a step in the right direction. If we can have something like that a bit more regular, it's promising that we've got a manager who is happy to go on. Because of course you said some things will be off the table, right? We know that some things will be off the table, but he did speak openly about certain things, and that's positive.
Yeah, look, I mean, we've criticised the club a lot, so it's the start, hopefully, of something more. What I would say is it is a good start, but you know what? Locks, let me ask you a question. What is the number one Leicester City fan channel on the internet right now in terms of subscribers?
It is Blue Tinted Glasses.
So I would like. I'm not joking here. We should put pressure because I know Andreas told us that he had done it before when he was at Hammarby or some other club that he was there before. So I think we should pressurize the club. I know it will be. It'll be proper politicians. They'll give a list of questions. You can't say anything. They'll have final right, whatever. But maybe it can be a starting point. But honestly, that is what I'd like to see next. So he's already got Kate's from BTG and other channels. So, you know, I think that would be a good thing to show it. But look, we're definitely moving in the right direction, but there's still a long way to go. Like, I still feel like this would have been good 5 years ago. If you look at what certain clubs are doing now in 2025, it's still streets ahead. But big respect to Marty for doing it. And one thing I will say, which is good, is that he is comfortable doing it. For example, could you imagine this type of interview with Ruud? I think he'd have been a lot more guarded. I don't think that so much personality would come through. I think that could be said with other managers. I think Enzo would be box office, to be honest with you. If I had one with him, that'd be pretty hilarious. But this is good with Marty. So yeah, I like it. I'm going to listen to it again, I think, tomorrow. But yeah, nice one to come across. I think it was good to do the reaction to it too.
I'd encourage everybody to watch the full thing, absolutely, because we missed certain bits and stuff like that. So it's definitely worth watching again. Although I've been informed that apparently you can't watch the video. It was genuinely an exclusive, well, secondary exclusive on BTG. You can't watch that video now. It's not available. You have to listen to the audio only. So you can check that out on Spotify. What about you, Ethan, mate? What are your main takeaways from that interview?
Marcy's a comfortable character in front of the microphone. He obviously has his sort of ideas of what he wants to build here, and that's obviously something that's really good, really encouraging to see. He's saying the right things. Maybe a bit of a politician answer here there, but I think genuinely 90% of what he's saying he actually means. So, you know, it's really positive to see. It's really encouraging, positive stuff. I don't think he's talking negatively about anything. He seems quite aware of the situation, and he's also ambitious enough to take us back to where we deserve to be. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe you guys need to try get him for the tactics show. A match against Ipswich, a 1-0 gritty win, and you bring Marty on. He's like, yeah, boys, it was difficult. It was very difficult game. So yeah, no, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it, and it's nice that he's getting involved in the community, and yeah, let's see what happens this season. I think it's going to be a roller coaster.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Right, I would agree with the nil. If there's anybody from the club watching, you know how to please the fans. Get Marty on BTG. That would be box office. We will be professional with Marty, I promise you. Although if things go well on the pitch, then we'll only have good things to say anyway. Is this your mum, Ethan? Is your mum watching?
Oh my days, yeah.
Hello to Ethan's mum. Hello. Right, there we go. So we're going to end it there. Thank you to everybody who's joined us today. It's been a great stream. It's been great watching the interview. Big shout out, of course, to the BBC and Radio Leicester, Owen, Pipes, and all the guys over there. If this video is taken down, then it was still worth it because we got to listen to the interview. I think it should be okay, though. So we're going to be back on Saturday. The kickoff's at 12:30, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so we'll be
early one.
live from about 12:10, reacting to the team news, doing the watch-along, and then we'll have Good Morning Foxes on Sunday. Ray is ready for the match, 7 a.m. in the US. So, yeah, hope you enjoy it, mate. So, cheers, Anil. Cheers, Ethan. Cheers to Marty. Cheers to the BBC. We will see you Saturday for Leicester City versus Oxford. Bye-bye. Massive thank you to today's sponsor, Match Bingo. Over 200 grand has been paid out to players so far by taking sports betting, football and bingo and combining them into one amazing app. Make sure to get your bingo card for any Leicester City game in the upcoming season. Click that link in the description or via the QR code on screen.